I'm Rabbi Lisa Delson.
I'm Cantor Annie Rose.
And this is the 6th week of our Counting the Omer video blog. Our topic for today is bonding.
Mm-hmm. The first kind of bonding we'd like to talk about today is bonding with God. Over previous videos, we've talked about the importance of morning blessings and having a prayer practice and having other practices that connect you with a positive flow of energy, doing good deeds that connect you to the desire to and the ability to do good deeds and to live the kind of life that you want to live, that we all want to live. In terms of connecting with God, it takes work also. So things like saying the morning blessings and having some sort of prayer practice, those things are important. It doesn't just happen. I think when we're children, we already have this sort of intuitive sense of God, possibly, and that there have been many articles about our desire to believe, our sort of spiritual leaning and leanings in our life, and our desire to be spiritually connected. So we have those desires and we have those tendencies, but we do need to work on it. Different people have different ways of working on it, of course. A lot of times if you ask people, what is it that connects you to God? The number one answer is nature. And I think that's because a lot of things about nature are bigger than we are. So people love the mountains, and they love the ocean, and they love the desert. They love things that show the great expanse of reality. And when we have the sense of something bigger than us, it elevates us to be thinking in a spiritual way, to be connecting spiritually. So nature may be your thing, but there are many other things too. A lot of people say music. Some people say yoga. There are many things that make us feel connected spiritually. We need to work on those things. We need to figure out what they are and to work on them and to trust ourselves that we can be engaged spiritually in a very meaningful way.
And one way that we might be able to do that is to just consider what you think God is. One of the ways that we try to figure out what God is talking about what God isn't. And it's okay to say, I don't believe that God is the man sitting in the clouds with the long beard and on the chair. But to consider what God actually is. And it's you can think about it on an intellectual level, more than a spiritual level, if that is something that's you're not quite there yet, or if it's something that's uncomfortable to you. But just to consider what you think that God might be. And this also could work for people who don't necessarily know if they believe in God, but just to imagine what that would be like if you did believe that there was God. And that once you get there, you might have a connection in some way.
And that sometimes it is that intellectual approach, and sometimes it's experience. And I think this reading speaks to the experience aspect.
So this is on page 47. It's a poem by Lily Montague in our Mishkan Tefillah. I find by experience, not by reasoning, but my own discovery that God is near me, and I can be near God at all times. I cannot explain it, but I am sure of my experience, as I am of the fact that I live and love. I cannot explain how I have come to live and love, but I know I do. In the same way, I know I am in contact with God.
Beautiful.
Another way that we can consider bonding this week is thinking about our relationship to the Jewish people. We know that Jewish people live all over the world and come from different cultures and different places, but there are certain things that we do that connect us to Jewish people all around the world and even those in our house. So we can consider the idea of bonding through learning about Jewish culture and learning about Jewish ritual and prayer. And every time we do that, we have the ability to become closer to our Jewish friends and neighbors and really become a part of this idea of Klal Yisrael.
Beautiful. And the third thing we wanted to talk about with the idea of bonding is family and friends, those nearest and dearest to us. Similarly to how we have to work on bonding with God by trusting ourselves, by having certain rituals and practices, by learning what brings us close to God. We need to do all those things and more with other people. we know that being in relationships is probably the most important thing in the world. And we also know that they take work. So some of the ways that we can, you all know the ways that you can work on your relationships. We all know them. But sometimes it helps to go a little bit deeper and think about what it is inside you. This is something we talked about before when we were talking about blocks that can be inside you. Really going beyond that, going beyond what's there, looking deeper in yourself to say, how can I either let go of something or embrace something or listen better? That's something we've talked about too. What are the steps I can take to make me better in this relationship, therefore heightening the relationship itself and bringing us into a closer state of bonding? It's a very important part of our lives from the time of birth, bonding to the parents, all the way through our lives until the time we die. So we need to be working on this and thinking about the quality of our relationships and how we can make them better, how we can become ever more bonded to those that we love.
Absolutely. And one of the ways that we might think that we're bonding with other people is gathering together to talk about things. And often we fall into the trap of talking about gossip or gossiping about other people. And sometimes we think that this is a way of bonding, but when we're talking about this in context of our counting the Omer and making ourselves better people, we realize that when we're really bonding with someone, we're not gossiping about somebody else. We're not discussing things that we shouldn't be discussing, but we are really, truly working on our own relationship and learning from each other rather than learning from each other at someone else's expense.
Yes. Great.
So I think we will continue together. We can say our counting the Omer blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Have a good week.
Have a great week.